I would like to talk today about intention and what it means from a physics point of view, using language of 21st century physics, as well as the language of Dr. Carol Blaney in her theory of etheric flux, and how that is the building block of the universe. When I begin talking about my theory of etheric flux, I will always like to start from the beginning, and that's what the building blocks are. But every time I talk about it, I don't want to have to go through that whole spiel again, right? So I have some videos already posted about what the building blocks of the universe are, and that's going to be our starting point for today's discussion. Those building blocks are, first you have the void, then you have a separation of something from nothing, and that's black and not black, movement and not movement, something and not something. And so anyway, this split from a logical point of view from the void into two concepts brings about a third concept. The Chinese call this the Tao, which brings about yin and yang. But I like to, since I don't really come from that tradition, you know, I wasn't brought up in Asia, I was brought up Western, and so that's kind of my starting point. And so rather than call it that, I say that out of the void, which exists on a three-dimensional Euclidean grid, out of that comes something called space, which moves, but as soon as it starts moving, you define something else called time, because you can't have movement without time. So you have something moving, and then you have time, and then you have the third thing, which is the grid upon which that movement moves. And so the markings on the grid, you know, 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, those markings will determine the changes in magnitude of speed, for example. So, yeah, so you have to have those three things: Euclidean grid, space and time. But anyway, I digress because I've already talked about all that in previous videos. So today we're talking about intention, and what does intention have to do with the building blocks of the universe? Well, everything in the universe has to do with the building blocks of the universe, because the building blocks of the universe create everything. And the building blocks of the universe also create intention, and this is how intention is formed from the building blocks of the universe. The flowing space in time on a Euclidean grid is called the ether, and I spell it A-E-T-H-E-R to distinguish it from other ethers. This is my personal ether. I've branded ether, and my ether follows Albert Einstein's work from his elevator experiment, and that's why I spell it with an A and an E, because it's his initials, Albert Einstein. So that's linking it to continuation of his work. Anyway, everything in the universe is composed of flowing ether, and in particular accelerating ether, and even more in particular curving accelerating ether, and even more particular, how many particulars is that, about 4? It's inwardly flowing, which has an equally and balancing outwardly flowing ether going outward, which causes our universe to expand. But that's a whole other story. We're just looking at the small right now, and all we see is things are sucking in ether. The earth is massive and it sucks in ether. So everything is made of ether, and matter is made of ether. Light is made of ether. And as you'll see in my previous videos, light is like a tornado that travels at the speed of light through our zero-point field energy. And that linearly moving tornado, that little vortex that acts like a soliton of pressure density as it moves across the universe, goes the speed of light to sea, and it's self-propelling. And it's also self-propelling if it's in a certain configuration where it curves around itself to where its head sucks in its tail. Because, like I said, mass and light always inhale the ether to balance the expanding universe's ether. So this inhaling of ether goes into the tornado at the speed of light this way. And when that tornado sucks its own ether in of itself, and see, now this is where I'm getting a little tongue twisted. I should write this part out. But when that ether eats its tail, kind of like that that Escher drawing where there's like a toroid, but the toroid, here's the point, and then the toroid's tail gets bigger and bigger, and then the head goes inside its own tail. That famous symbol in old history, that's probably what that represented from the ancient physicists. And so I'm not probably saying anything new, but this is what I see in my visions, and also it matches what the physicists are talking about now in their experiments. Superfluids flow very much more like ether than, say, water does. But I digress. We're talking about intention. So I'm saying all this preamble to come to our starting point for today's discussion, which is that we're made out of matter. But that matter is really just light trapped in a circle or some other small size. And so, but our bodies are still all flowing ether. And flowing ether is part of our natural world, and we observe things like flowing ether that are the Tao flowing in natural ways at different size scales. One thing we see is flowing water, and we can see how beautiful it flows, you know, like sort of random but beautiful, and you can always tell when something's natural or fake. It's just you can sense it. Air also flows in a natural way, and so does the ether. And it has to. And by process of elimination, you can invent a universe. So that's what I've done. And it's the only way the universe can exist. And I know I'm rambling right now because I'm trying to find a way to tie in the fact that my body is a pulsating movement of etheric flux. And as it pulls in flux, it changes the flux around there in the same way that if I'm if I am a whirlpool in the middle of the ocean, because I'm moving a certain path, say I'm kind of going in a zigzag path, for various reasons, like, you know, because there's a storm, the water around me will sense that, and I'll push it out of the way. So I'm leaving behind this informational trail wherever I go. And in the same sense, the ether in my own body, as it flows in whatever way it's flowing, and it's going to make an informational pattern around it, because everything affects everything else. And so the ether inside my body, flowing inside my body, and through it down through the earth, and also staying in my body, that ether, as I said before, creates an informational path around it, so that the nearby entities can see what my flow of ether is. I cannot hide anything. My etheric flux is what it is, and all the etheric flux going on around me in other people's bodies or in the air or whatever, this pillow, that can sense my etheric flux. Now, it may not be smart enough to know that it's sensing it, but the information is there. So there could be in the future some little sensor here that could pick up my etheric flux. And in a way, we already have those kind of sensors. They're called EKGs and EEGs, those little sensors we put around our heart on our bodies, and we pick up electromagnetic fields of our heart. That electromagnetic field of our heart is because of our etheric flux pattern, and that's one of the, electromagnetism is one of the, I don't want to say artifact, but the result of, the co-creation of the etheric flux moving. And on a certain size scale, equipment can measure the flow of ether in certain patterns that we pick up as magnetic fields. And just to be simple, it's like gravity is like straight moving ether, that how much it pushes down on you, that sort of thing, and accelerating in a straight line. And then when it starts to get curved, it starts to bring in charges, you know, attraction and repulsion, and curving of the etheric flux acceleration or the etheric acceleration. If it has a curved vector field, you know, like turbulent water curving, like that, or maybe very uniformly curved, like when you see superfluids have those columns of twisting superfluid, you know, those uniform things, those make fields around them because they're dragging the ether next to it and affecting the ether next to it. And so that's what the field is. It's moving ether. And so the way, so since I'm a field and the universe can sense me, I can also sense the universe in the same exact way. Because my ether, the information is there is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that I'm smart enough to pick it up. I'm just saying that the information is there that you could explain, well, how can moving something over here affect something over here? And then someone might say, oh, well, you're moving a magnet, so of course my body can feel that. But what if you're moving a non-magnet? But I'm saying your body can still feel it. It can feel all the information of the entire universe because everything affects everything else. And that's a logical statement. That's not anything to debate. So if that's the case, then if I am standing next to my cat, oh gosh, what a coincidence. Here's our kitty right here. That really was a coincidence, but I guess I had kitty on my mind. Okay, so this is a cat, and I'm going to do a little demonstration. Let's see, Curly. I would like to intend that you notice that I'm noticing you. So you're sleeping. And I'm just going to put my attention on you and just hold it there and just pretend like I'm petting you in my mind and I want to cuddle and I just love and appreciate you so much. And let's just see what happens. Hey, were you just thinking about me? Yes, I was. Now see, that was a demonstration of intention. I used to try that on my cat before he passed away, Curly. And cat would just be sound asleep and I'd be working away, we were ignoring each other, and then I would just start staring at Pluto, either Pluto or Curly, and they would come up to me and feel acknowledged. At least it seemed that way to me. Or if I'd be petting them and it's just one of these random pettings where there's no emotion involved, just sort of, how you do with your pet, sometimes you're just talking and paying your bills while you pet your cat. But as soon as I put my attention on the cat, it got really loving. And all of a sudden the cat just noticed it. And I didn't do anything different except for what was up here. So that intention, I believe, is because my mind and my body are feeling this feeling of love. And that those etheric vibrations, whatever they may be, but they're definitely real. Because emotions are kind of chemical in nature. Be a Candace part. Not that that's all they are, but they are partly chemical in nature. And they're electromagnetic as well. And so anyway, that matter and that pattern of the matter in my body and its movement and everything else, the light waves I'm emitting are forming informational effects on the fields around me, on the space around me, so that cat can pick that up. And it's because that cat, here's the crux, is it resonates in the cat's thoughts. And it's exactly the same as a string in a guitar. If there's a guitar over there and I pluck the A string, that one will just start ringing naturally. Because the smallest vibration of the sound of A that I'm plucking in the air is enough to just get it to start resonating. First, that really weak A sound just barely hits the string. It's just not really doing anything, Then after about 100 times, which is really just about a second, it starts doing this, and pretty soon it's just the right, period, the right period to make this resonate. It's its resonant frequency. And so then with just that little tiny weak signal of A 440 hertz, it makes this string resonate and start humming actually and creating more of the sound. And then they feed back on each other and you have to wear earplugs. So in that sense of resonation, you don't need much if someone else's resonant field starts to prod yours, whatever that, it may be like a combination of frequencies or maybe just one frequency, but I'm pretty sure it's a combination of, maybe hundreds of different frequencies. The heartbeat maybe, and what the brain's thinking, and the firing of the impulses of the brain, that would cause another wave. And maybe, so the heartbeat of that person, their brain waves firing, those are the two main ones, and maybe the rate of blood flow would give sort of like an overall magnetic field. Because, you have charged blood particles flowing up and down, kind of constantly, that's going to make a magnetic field around their whole body, in addition to the pulsating magnetic field or electromagnetic field from their heart and also their brain. So all of these things are going to cause Kitty Cat here to maybe awaken some of his frequencies that are in those ranges. So I'm sure his heart beats maybe exactly a multiple of 2 to mine, because he's little. So maybe if my heart rate beats at 70, this cat's beats at 140, or some other somewhat close multiple. Well, thanks for listening. Bye.